the stiff truth. Welcome to the Stiff Truth. I am Bob West. I am here with the one and only Scott Casanova. And we've got a hell of a show lined up today. We're going to get into the men's college basketball game a tidbit. Talk about my vaccination experience. Talk about our cocktails and how things need to get harder. And kind of corporate's involvement in politics with our MLB moving the All-Star game, our thought on the elections in general and voting in America. And we'll wrap that all up with a great stiff truth today. So I'm excited to get into it. I'm ready to get going. Scott, how the hell are you, buddy?
Doing great, man. And don't worry, guys. It's 18 days until the NFL draft. So countdown here. We still will be doing a 4-part show, I believe, on the NFL draft. So
I thought we were gonna do 6, like round by round. With breakdowns.
Round 6 is gonna be the best show. I promise you guys.
Well, we're devote the last half hour of the 6th show to the last guy picked. Mr. What do they call that?
A kicker?
Like Mr. Anonymous, Mr. I don't know. There's a special name they give the last person picked in the draft.
You know what? It's actually, it is kind of, is it kind of rude, the name? I can't remember what the name is. Look it up, Bob, because it's one of those things where I guess you kind of feel bad for the guy, but at the end of the day,
Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah, but that's really fucked up if you ask me. But at the end of the day, he's still relevant. And even if he's making league minimum, sitting on the bench, being a glorified cheerleader for the first few years, that's still over $250,000, over 300,000, something like that. So Mr. Irrelevant's getting paid more than me. That's for damn sure. So good for him. But no, I'm pretty pumped up for the today's show. I think we got some good convo. But Bob, I want to jump into something real quick here, just because I'm really excited about it. So if you don't mind, I'd like to give a quick update for everybody. If everybody listened to the show last summer, it was really, really hot in my house. It's not going to be the case this year. We are now fully loaded with bomb-ass central air and a brand new furnace. And what's crazy is they couldn't even start up my air conditioner because it's not hot enough yet. So I may have jumped the gun getting it a little early, but better than that than get it when it's already getting really hot and it's like a 2-month wait to get it installed. So pretty cool shit. I'm pretty excited about it. Did you see the size of the air conditioner? I took a picture of it and sent it.
I did. It was quite girthy.
Yeah. It's a big one.
Like when you turn the corner and you first saw its size, you gasped it a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah. My knees got a little bit weak. You know what I mean? Hands got a little bit clammy.
You didn't know if you're going to be able to handle it.
Well, at first I was like, is that thing going to fit in the backyard?
Oh, luckily you don't have to take that big ass thing inside.
No way. It's a little too bulky for inside, but I'll tell you what, I don't know a lot about air conditioners in general, besides what I've learned from talking to salesmen, but it seems rather large. It seems like you would see that size air conditioner, with a few of them sitting outside, like a large hotel. So I'm super excited to get it fired up because my goal is to literally have everybody in the house wearing sweaters with slippers on in the dead of summer. That's going to be my requirement. So total 180 from last year. Very excited about things.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And see, usually you're pretty happy when I'm sweaty, but this is a different kind of excitement here. So I know you feel me. You know what I mean? Big time.
I'm happy for you because I know that you and the fam were pretty miserable last year in the heat of the summer. Well, trying to get that sorted out. And it took a process. Upgrading the electrical and moving on to the HVAC, and you got it sorted out. So major dad points for you, major husband points. So good for you.
And I'm environmentally a pretty cool guy right now. I think opposed to when I bought this house with the insulation, the new double pane windows, and the AC, Well, no, I take that back. I think I'm going to be using a hell of a lot more energy now than I was before with the Central Air.
Is
So
that
never mind.
because of the private jets
Yeah,
to
because
Vegas?
of that. Well, yeah,
Your secret's safe with me.
I know. Well, I usually go to Kansas City, Kansas in my private jets. That's where all the hot parties are. You know what I mean?
Let's go hang out with Patty.
But hey, yeah, I guess just jumping into this, and we had talked about this. It's unfortunate with all the life-changing events that's been happening with you over the past couple of months. You haven't had the time to get into college basketball, men's college basketball.
No, and in fact, I did not watch a single like full game front to back this year. Very, very sad because I'm a basketball honk and I love my basketball, but I just something had to give this year, and that was kind of the thing that I cut out of my time so that I could try to focus on other areas. So
Yeah, well, you know what I've heard? Bob likes his sex like he likes his basketball, one-on-one and with as little dribbling as possible.
well, I don't know. I'm down with some good dribbling. So yeah, it's a little unfortunate. With the tournament, I've basically just been keeping up with the highlights and reading about the game the next day. Like when I saw Gonzaga just barely beat UCLA and to avoid a double overtime, which was by the way a terrible shot at the buzzer. That shot was just never meant to go in. He looked out so bad to get that shot. So that's how they won that game. I knew right away that they were going to have a hard time at this level of the tournament. I mean, because UCLA isn't exactly, 2002 Kentucky.
Well, I'll just say this. I was pulling for Gonzaga. I mean, it's one of those things where if you can literally go undefeated throughout the entire season and take the championship, I mean, that's impressive. That's very impressive.
Hasn't happened in almost 50 years.
But you know what's crazy? God, I don't know. With that game, watching Baylor and watching Gonzaga, one, it's like Baylor really looked like a legit like championship caliber team. And I don't know what happened to Gonzaga, but I had to wonder here. And again, I didn't get to pay attention to a lot of, well, they'll say like the regular season of college basketball, but dude, is like the West just in general that much shittier than the East this year or something? Because it really looked like to have an undefeated record, and a lot of their games were very lopsided with the score. Like they blew people out. I think they averaged 91 points a game, and for college basketball, that's pretty fucking good. They looked like little league type shit, man. It was really, really pathetic. I don't know, like the 3-point like percentage, the defense was like non-existent, and they were playing I think the best defensive team in college basketball too. It was really fucking sad. I went from like being like super pumped up for Gonzaga, and then like within like 5 minutes into the game realizing there's no fucking chance in hell that these guys are even going to come within 15 points by the end of the game. And that's correct. What did it end up to be? I mean, I think it was like, it didn't seem that horrible, 86-70, but that doesn't really,
that's because they called off the dogs.
Seriously. I think at a certain point, I think Baylor just kind of wrapped it up a little bit. They didn't run up the scoreboard. Let's just put it that way. They could have. And that's pretty sad because already beating them by 16. I don't know, man, but that was a pretty shitty game. Probably one of the worst championship games I've seen in a long time. So,
but cool for Baylor. It's the first time they've ever won.
Yeah.
But either way, we're going to get a new champion because neither one had ever won one. So that's good. They'll probably be terrible next year because all those guys are probably one and done and on to the NBA. Yeah. That's just how college basketball is. But yeah, I did see the kind of the start of the game and the highlights, and the same thing. Gonzaga they looked overmatched, and it looked like they didn't really belong in that game. And if you didn't know who they were, I agree that you would have wondered, why are they in this game? Like, who shit the bed to let them beat them and get into this game? And the answer is UCLA.
Yeah, exactly. And what was funny too is I was following obviously like the start of the tournament, and UCLA, I kept saying, I was like, they need to just get beat already. They're not that good. They're getting lucky. And I think I had like I think I had the script kind of flipped with them in Gonzaga. You know what I mean? They literally looked like the better team that just couldn't quite eke it out because of that Hail Mary of a half court shot at the end in overtime. But yeah, I mean, they beat Alabama. They beat a couple other teams that were really good too on the way to play Gonzaga. And it's just crazy. It's just crazy, man.
Well, it's always unfortunate when you get the tournament, because the tournament's probably the best playoffs in all of sports, right? If college football is like that, oh, what a spectacle that would be. But so to have the championship game fall apart like that is always a letdown. But, overall, I think for my money, I think the NCAA, tournament is just the best playoff system and the most exciting playoff system in all of sports. It
really
opens
is.
up that Cinderella story that we have actually seen time and time again. About once or twice a decade, some, team that no one thought should make it ends up in the 16, the Elite Eight, the Final Four, and they have a shot.
What was that Florida Atlantic school? Do you remember that when they made a little run? Yeah, they made a little run that was just blowing everybody away too. Like, who the fuck are these guys? Yeah.
Well, and we've seen it time and time again. If you remember Memphis making that run with the year they had Derrick Rose, and they went all the way. I think they went all the way to the championship game, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But it was interesting this year because all the typical powerhouses just weren't there. Kansas doesn't have a great team put together right now. Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke, all the normal, powerhouses to where when you have a Final Four and it doesn't have one of those, or at least an Elite Eight and doesn't have one of those, it's very weird.
Yeah.
So I think those schools will probably work their way back, but it looks like Roy Williams actually left North Carolina.
I saw that, dude. That's crazy. That is crazy. I don't know how long he's been there, but I want to say
forever, man, for like 20 years.
Yeah, I was going to say probably I was going to say like late 90s or something like that, right?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy. Now, let me ask you this, just because, and I might get some flack here for this, but do you even know who won the women's tournament?
Well, I did.
It's rough, huh?
Well, I can't remember. I even read the whole article about it.
Was it Arizona? I want to say Arizona. Oh, here it is.
That's sad that I already forgot.
NCAA championship right here. Stanford beat Arizona.
Oh, Stanford. That was the big deal.
By 1 point.
Because they hadn't won it in 25 years or something like that. So.
See, and the reason why I mention that is I am one of those assholes. I'm going to go ahead and admit that right now. When I was, flipping around a week or two ago, looking for games to watch in the tournament, I'd be like, oh, look, and I turn around and be like, dude, it's the women's. And I turn it right away. Cause I'm not a big women's basketball fan. Now, granted, women's college basketball is super popular, really, really popular. There's some great teams in there, 2 great coaches. I just can't get into it, man. I don't know what it is. Same thing with the WNBA. I don't know about you, but I don't think I've watched a WNBA game from start to finish. I just don't think I have, which is really sad. It's really close-minded of me, if you ask me. What's my problem, Bob? Am I that much of an asshole?
Well, no. The thing about women's basketball is it's kind of a purist thing, right? Because you'll see the fundamentals performed in women's basketball like nowhere else. Right.
Well, yeah.
So
that makes sense.
So yeah, it's amazing to watch the execution, to watch the fundamentals, the ball handling, the minimizing the turnovers, just all the things that's done in the women's game, because they can't overcome deficiencies throughout their life like men can, and just bowl someone over and go dunking on them. That's just not how women are able to physically play that game. Some are. There's been a few women that are just athletically gifted and better than everyone. And that's with all sports, right? But for the most part, the average, professional women's basketball player isn't going to go, run a 4.40 and dunk it from the free throw line on a fast break, or just bowl someone over and use their athletic ability to overcome their basketball IQ, which often happens in the NBA, which sucks. When you watch the NBA and you get all these dunks and you get all the awesomeness athletic wise, you also get a lot of trash basketball. There's a lot of one-on-one basketball. There's a lot of not understanding the execution, a lot of superstars that don't want to listen to coaching, a lot of ego. So there's a lot of things that are negative about the NBA, but I do watch them more.
This is very true. And I will say this, and I've got to point this out. I don't know if anybody caught it, but I thought I was the asshole. But I have to thank you, Bob, for just laying it out
You're
that
welcome.
in NCAA women's basketball, Bob is quoted saying, "It's great to see the fundamentals like ball handling."
That's right. I do want to point out that many of those players have no experience handling balls.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Gotta get that in there.
Oh, but I'll tell you what, man. But this was interesting too. I did notice myself, and I've been doing it recently. You probably have too. I think anybody that was longing for professional sports or just sports in general to be back, I have been watching at least a portion, if not an entire NBA game, almost every single night of the week recently, especially as things are starting to get exciting with some certain teams. It's crazy. Everybody in my house extremely bored with NBA basketball. They like leave the room, but I don't give two shits. And the great thing is like, wow, this wasn't happening this time last year. The tournament, all the NBA games, they took a brief pause, right?
Yeah, they didn't start up again until July.
Yeah.
If you recall, they didn't end their season until I think it was October, which is normally when they're starting the next season.
Yeah.
So they did shut it down for like 6 months and then circle back.
Yeah.
Do you sneak it in on your phone?
I do sometimes when we're watching a movie and I get what are you doing on your fucking phone? I'm like, I'm just checking an email, something like that.
So
like, yeah.
I do the same thing. I record pretty much I record all the NBA games just in general. So that I can go pick and choose if I see a good matchup. But specifically, I record all the Mavericks games. So I love watching Luka ball out. The Mavericks team is so exciting right now. They're better than they've been in so long. Porzingis is starting to get better and get more game acclimated. He's basically had 2 seasons out. He had that surgery on his knee when he was a New York Knick, kept him out for a whole season, got traded during that, rehabbed her back, and then he had some other issue that kept him out a lot of last season. But now he's back and he's looking pretty healthy and starting to just nail ridiculous shots. That guy's like Tim Duncan, right? But he has the range where he can shoot like from 28, 30 feet. It's ridiculous.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you who's doing really good right now too is the fucking Nuggets, man. My goodness. They're on fire right now. I need to go see a game. I need to go see a game.
It's the Joker, dude.
Yeah, it really is.
You got to get on board with Jokic. That dude's crazy.
He is literally a center that has like the assist skills of like Magic Johnson. You know, it's ridiculous.
That's not even an exaggeration. I've seen that guy thread the needle in some passes, and you're like, how does a 7'2" guy like that like thread the no look pass in between someone's like 2 defenders? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, dude, he's ridiculous. He's the glue for that team. I mean, it sounds cheesy or whatever, but he gets everybody involved because of his ability to be able to understand where the ball needs to go. And yeah, no, he's amazing, man. So
having a center like that is incredible because honestly, most of the time he resides at the top of the key at the 3-point line.
Yeah.
Right. So when they give him the ball, they have to respect it because he'll nail that shot. Well, like if there's no one guarding him, like 10 out of 10 times, that dude is insane, right? So you have to come out, and then that opens up the whole defense, and then they're really hard to stop.
Yeah, no, and that's the other thing too. I remember watching. This was back in the early 90s, but another big man that's always surprised me with his shot accuracy was Hakeem Olajuwon. Olajuwon was pretty dangerous from the field. And that again is another atypical thing for most centers. I mean, take somebody maybe one of the beefiest centers, and I swear, guys, we'll stop with the NBA here in a few. But Shaquille O'Neal, perfect example of somebody that has like the worst like field goal percentage. Unless he's in the paint, you know what I mean? But that's typical. It's actually very typical for a lot of big men.
Shot.
Yeah.
Well, it was jump hooks after about 10 feet away from the rim, and even that was questionable. After about 10 feet, though, it was like a 0% shot percent. It was ridiculous.
I got to mention this one time because I thought it was really funny how they do a great job on video games now, like modeling how people shoot. And you remember Shaq's like free
his free throw.
His free throw, like how he would hold the ball like this all weird and like push it at it. He'd like push
or
it.
like with two hands, he just kind of.
Yeah. But I was playing 2K like the other day, and Shaq was at the line, and I was like, oh my God, he does look like a mentally handicapped child that's learning how to play basketball.
Dude, if you're playing with him trying to shoot free throws, it's like impossible to make one. It's ridiculous.
Dude, you literally can hit it right on the money. He can light up green in accuracy and still almost miss it.
It's like, you had a perfect shot release. So with that, we'll reward you with a 47% free throw percentage. Thanks, Shaq. It's ridiculous, dude.
Good stuff, man.
So yeah, no, I agree. The video games have been pretty crazy with just kind of how they are, and it's always cool, even though they don't change a whole lot from year to year. I don't know if you've caught up because I've been playing 2K since like 2008, but it's really just the new rosters and staying current. Because they have the license and all that, it makes it super fun to play with your squad. It really does.
I honestly, I'll admit, I haven't played basketball video games, and geez, I want to say like 15 years or something like that. So me getting 2K, the current one from 21, it's fun though, super fun, man. I'll tell you that right now. But anyways. We got to save all the beefy sports talk for our 6-7 part series. I believe because we're going to do a 6-part series for NFL draft. We're going to talk about each round, and then we're going to do one show, which is a recap of the entire draft and our thoughts. So get ready, Stiffies.
And don't forget the half-hour special on Mr. Irrelevant.
Oh my God. So, hey, how does it
People are wondering, are they fucking serious right now?
No, guys, we're not really serious, but it is fun. It is fun to joke about. But something else that's fun to joke about too is Bob getting shots in the ass. And apparently you just got your second vaccine shot not too long ago. I know, again, you requested it in the ass, which is just Bob's, style. He's not an anti-vaxxer, but he won't take a vaccine unless he gets it in the ass. How was that, Bob?
So when you just drop your pants at the vaccine booth, they tend to frown upon that, apparently.
I can see you right now going through like one of the drive-through ones, and you're just like pulling up like with your ass cheeks hanging outside of the window. Like,
just give it to me. Give it to me. When you're done, can you punch me in the back of the head? Thanks.
There we go. Got to keep it familiar. No, but seriously, Bob, this is pretty impressive here. Both shots already taken care of. When did you get this done again? Because I feel
it was last Friday. So this Friday will be my 2 weeks, and I should be, fully antibodied up and good to go.
You're literally ready to like jump into a big pool of what? Something usually dangerous. Help me out here. A pool of used tampons, or maybe alligators. I don't know.
Bees?
You got a strong immune system now, is what I'm trying to say.
Against COVID. Well, really, in general, I don't get sick very much. For all those that are probably wanting to know how it went, I didn't really notice it. I mean, hot dog in the hallway. Didn't feel a thing.
Totally typical Bob. After getting a shot in the ass, he always just like downplays everything about the experience when he knows it was fucking amazing, but that's fine. Let me ask you this. How long did you have to wait in a long line for the second shot here? I mean,
there was actually quite a long line, but it moved really quick. So I would say within 20 minutes the line went out the convention center after leaving the floor of the convention center, going around in the inside of the convention center, and then leaving. But there was 2 lines with 6-foot markers. And for anyone that, checks out my TikTok, I have these videos up there, so you can check it out. But then it went around the outside of the convention center too. So, but the line was moving really quick. So like I said, for about 20 minutes, that line, and got right up in front and got my shot. They sat me down for 15 minutes. Then I got a text on my phone saying your 15 minutes is up. Thank you for getting vaccinated. And I was out the door and on my way. Now, I will tell you this. There was no side effects for me really to speak of. The night I got my vaccine around 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, That night, I woke up really 3 o'clock in the next morning. I woke up and I was just like, do I feel like shit? Kind of feel warm and feel like shit. So I'm gonna go get some juice. So I went and got some like iced cranberry, got a drink, and then drank that down and went back to bed. Woke up feeling fine. So I don't know. I could have just woke up parched or whatever. It might not have had anything to do with anything, but I did have that. Other than that, there was no body aches, no chills, no symptoms of really any kind while I was building up the immunity to it. So that's pretty fortunate for me. The arm soreness, though, Scott, the arm soreness of both of these shots was pretty incredible. So, in like 2 or 3 days, both times, I was a big old bitch about it, and I was trying to like not let anyone know, but I'm like reaching for stuff all like it was sore, really was.
That's really interesting to me that your arm is sore after getting a shot in the ass. Strange, but but hey, it is a new vaccine, not really tried and true yet. You know what I mean? So that might be it's your possible side effects are a sore arm after getting a shot in the ass. You're like, interesting how that works. But
I got my second shot in the arm, and I couldn't sit down for a week.
Well, I say for side effects, that's pretty casual. And you got the Pfizer shot, right, for both?
Yeah, I got
I
Pfizer.
imagine. Good old Pfizer. Well, I feel like we need to do a quick update on Matt Gaetz since your background is still Matt Gaetz.
I forgot to change that guy.
That's okay. Here, I actually have a quick thing about Matt Gaetz, and then I'll get back to vaccine. I want to actually chat a little bit more about that. But did you know this is actually a pretty fun fact? And I saw it on CNN of all places. They were doing like a little expose piece on Matt Gaetz. He lived his childhood house is the house that they filmed the Truman Show in. It's where Jim Carrey lives in the Truman Show. Isn't that fucking wild?
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
Yeah, like they had him talking about it, and it was Matt Gaetz like 10 years ago, so he looks like a little fat kid kind of. But he was literally saying that some guy, and he was really rich area in Florida, but some movie producer came up to his house on like a golf cart and said, "Hey, we want to film a movie here with Jim Carrey in it." And they're like, "Yeah, like of course, that's awesome." You know what I mean? But I was like, wow, how fucking random is that? So all of a sudden I'm like, hey, it'd be kind of pretty cool to hang out with Matt Gaetz back in the day. We could hang out in the Truman Show house. But anyways, I just wanted to add that there. As you know, just to give everybody an update, his buddy, looks like he's going to strike a plea deal, huh? So he may be in hotter water than we know here in the coming days and weeks. But as of right now, still hanging tough.
Which one? The person that worked for him, or the guy that is originally caught up in all the major trafficking guys?
That guy, yeah, he's like an old time acquaintance of his or friend or something like that.
That's not good.
That's not good at all. No,
it's not good for him.
It's really bad for Matt Gaetz. So he may not be able to hang his hat on that he lived in the Truman Show house when he was growing up. But as of right now, it's a pretty good accolade to have, if you ask me. So, whoops, Jesus Christ, fingers crossed for Matt Gaetz. Hopefully that works out for him.
Yeah, I'm sure it's gonna work out super well.
Well, we'll see what happens. But getting back to the vaccine thing, I do want to tell you this because you're fully vaccinated. I know another person that's fully vaccinated in New Mexico. A lot of other friends that I know are, if not fully, partially vaccinated. It seems like a fucking shit show up here in Colorado. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Nobody can get appointments anywhere. I mean, all the pharmacies are completely booked up all the time.
Why don't you just register for New Mexico and come on down and get one?
Actually, even our governor
will let you.
Yeah, he said to go ahead and do that. Like a lot of people are actually getting better time, like a shorter time frame, by going to rural Colorado instead of like Denver and in the larger cities too, because there's just less of a wait. Or going to neighboring states. He actually told people, hey, if you want to go to a neighboring state, go get it done. Like he's like I don't know what's going on in this state, but go get vaccinated. It's interesting. And I do have to.
You're like, you mean your state that you govern?
He's like, I give up. You know what I mean? I can't do this. I can't do this fucking shit anymore. Just go to another state. I do want to say this too. We lost a pretty big legend here this last week, and you might be thinking about Prince Philip, but honestly, he's 99 fucking years old and he was like British royalty. So boo fucking who, move the fuck on. It's time for him to like, just end anyways. But DMX, bro, 50 years young, major heart attack. The reason
Yeah, I heard he OD'd on like coke or something.
Yeah,
a heart attack, and then was in ICU and was pronounced brain dead, right?
something like that. But I do want to say what I thought was a pretty sloppy attempt by the family to kind of protect his legacy, because he's had problems with drugs for years, right?
Well, he just got out of prison a few years ago.
Yeah. But I saw an article where they were literally trying to link his death to him recently getting the coronavirus vaccine. Like, it was just days after he got the coronavirus vaccine that he had a massive heart attack. I was like, I don't know if massive heart attack is a side effect from any vaccine.
Right.
Sure. He's like, so what happens is you take the vaccine, you get a sudden inclination to go sniff an 8-ball of Coke, and all of a sudden you got a massive heart attack. Goddamn vaccine. I knew it. So I thought that was pretty weak, because when I read that, I was like, dude, you know damn well, speaking to his family, that the vaccine had nothing to fucking do with this. But again, whatever. Even DMX had the vaccine. Sure, 50-year-old black man gets the vaccine before me. That doesn't make any sense. What's going on here, Bob? God.
It's go to New Mexico Department of Health, Scott, sign on up. I got a guest room here with your name on it, buddy.
Hey, I like that. Stay at the Bob's Manor. I like that.
We're COVID free here.
Hey, there you go. I'm feeling good about things already. The other thing I want to say here, Bob, and we talked about this. It's something that we kind of dropped the ball a little bit. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and call it out right now. If any of the Stiffies do make cocktails with us, they'll probably realize that I would say in the last couple of months, since the start of, maybe even going back into the end of season 1, they really got diluted a little bit. I'll just say that they weren't as stiff as they once were.
So I do have a question about that. Do you think it's because we were getting fancy and really just picking drinks off of shit we wanted to beef up our bar with? Well, I could make a drink out of this, but I really want some blackberry liqueur for the bar. Let's find a drink with it. Because I know there's a couple of times where I did pick a drink based off of something I wanted to go get for the bar.
Yeah, yes, I'm guilty of that. And I don't know, but just in recent drinks, and here's what did it for me. Thank you again, Bob, for bringing up the Raven cocktail, because that reminded me. I don't know. I can't speak for you. I'll just speak for myself. But I was like, this is a strong cocktail, and I even had a pre-cocktail beer for the show when we did that. And I was like, I probably didn't need to do that, but I have noticed, because I'm an alcoholic, that recently when we okay, hold on a second. But
I love the accountability. I love it. The self-awareness is just oozing out of you.
Yeah, but you know what? There's been recent drinks where I'm like, dude, there's like literally 3.5 ounces of some kind of like fruity liqueurs that have an average of like 10 to 20% alcohol. And then on top of that, a lot of the drinks we're having had mixers on top of that too. I was like, these were not strong cocktails. These are borderline strong beers, maybe. And even a strong beer, I think, is more manly.
Do you think the Stiffies were going like Lloyd Christmas on us and being like, buzzer, buzzer, buzzer?
It's like, you're such a wimp, man. Definitely. So long, short, guys, we let the cocktails get a little weak. We've got our cocktails have gotten a little limp. Okay. But no more, at least for this show, but no more. I'm really excited about our stiff drink, because it is literally one of the stiffest cocktails in the world. Like, that's legit. I looked up the 5 strongest cocktails, and it's one of them.
And because of that, I did half of my homework before the show.
Good man. Good man. So I'm really excited about it anyways. I mean, plus this one has a story. When's the last time we've had a cocktail that actually has background and a cool story? It's been a long time.
Are you going to give us the history of the drink?
I may.
Or it's been a while. It's been a while since we've all gathered round for story time.
Yeah, this is true.
I kind of miss it.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, can I say this too? When I went and bought the alcohol yesterday, I felt really cool when I was going to the register. Unlike like the week before when I was getting some kind of like banana liqueur, 99 bananas or something like that. Total paradigm shift there. It's just, all of a sudden I'm in there, I'm getting artistic liquor. You know what I mean? So there's that too. How'd you feel?
It was. I felt half cool because the bottle I wanted, I didn't buy because I cheaped out.
Because it was
So
fucking expensive.
it was $75, and I was just like, I've got one planned drink for this bottle, and have no idea of what the future drinking plans are with this booze. I don't know if I can really justify spending $75 on absinthe.
Ooh, hey now. Yeah, it's true. I I do this a lot. I have this kind of like decision paralysis at the liquor store sometimes because, of course, the snob somewhere within me, it's got to be in there somewhere, I swear. But I always want to get like the finest, most legit, authentic quality stuff. But then the price tag, and we'll say the Hebrew in me, kind of just steers me to the cheaper booze. And I have this mental struggle. It's like a little bit of a tug of war going on in my head. Like, get something affordable. It's just for the show. Like you said, you're not going to be drinking absinthe like every fucking night or something like that.
I mean, I hope not.
I hope that may cut my ear off like Van Gogh if I do that. But no, yeah, I struggled a little bit. So I went middle of the road. I don't know how mine was around like 40 something dollars. I did make sure to get the cool little spoon. Did you get one of the spoons?
I didn't come with a spoon.
Oh, you fucking pussy.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Pussy.
Such a loser, man. He's like,
You are one pathetic loser.
oh, well, anyways, enough churching it up. Why don't we go make ourselves a nice little cocktail, a stiff cocktail, getting right back to our roots here, and come finish up the show. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Awesome.
Cheers, Scotty.
Oh, cheers all the way. Cheers to your tits.
Cheers for fears.
Oh, it's a great band.
Cheers for beers.
So easy to share. Go ahead and recline that thing all the way back. Pour yourself a nice little bottle of bubbly.
Fresh off his recent suspension, bad boy Bob West back.
Oh yeah, he's back. How you doing there, guy?
Good. It took me a minute. I had to chase down my bitters from the move. So
Chasing down the bitters, and your bitters are running down the street.
yeah, it was in the medicine cabinet because it has a dropper on it. So someone actually just like,
Oh, very
those
nice.
bitters must be for your eyes. I don't know.
Tell you what, pretty nice looking, isn't it? Look at that.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. All right, now it says to drink these slowly.
Is that because it has so much booze in it?
Yeah. Ooh, with the bitters, that's it's interesting, isn't it? Oof. Interesting.
It's very stiff.
It's very stiff. This is no punk bitch drink. So guys, today we are having Death in the Afternoon. And what I love about this cocktail, first of all, it's very fucking stiff. It's sugar cube, some bitters, a couple drops of bitters, an ounce of absinthe, and then top that bitch off in a champagne flute with some champagne, right? So it is in yours, I believe the one you got is 65% alcohol, so 130 proof. Mine was 55, so 110 proof. Pretty strong stuff on top of that with some bitters, which actually has alcohol in it too. 47% alcohol in the bitters. I know it's only a couple drops, but still added there. This is quite a dank drink. So I will have another small sip as I am following the guidelines from Ernest Hemingway himself.
Is this his favorite drink?
Oh, he invented it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So give you a little background on this Death in the Afternoon drink is, yes, invented by Ernest Hemingway in the 30s. So this goes way back, and obviously he had a book named Death in the Afternoon in 1932. So this is like 35-ish when it like became like a legit cocktail. Oof. I'll tell you what, just like the aftertaste there is very, very alcohol-y. That's nice. But yeah, no, it's pretty interesting that he invented this drink. So what happened is he spent some time in France, and obviously where many brands of absinthe is from, and where it was popular. I guess he got a nice little liking to it on his time in France, and came back, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to make myself a really dank cocktail while I sit here and write some crazy shit. So that's what he did. Living in Key West, death in the afternoon, sipping. And he's, you know what's really funny about this too? He is quoted saying, where is it? It was really funny. Oh, about making these. He's like, make these and sip slowly 3 to 5 of these. I was like, Jesus Christ. I can see that. Having about 5 of these over the course of about 4 or 5 hours. You'd probably be good to go. You know what I mean? So some crazy shit, man. And then what else is kind of interesting too is absinthe in general. It was banned for a long time after it became pretty popular in the 18th, 19th century by the United States and some other European countries, including like Switzerland, a couple others. And it's supposed to have this, kind of hardcore psychedelic, psychoactive kind of thing because of the wormwood that's in trace amounts. But apparently that's been highly exaggerated. It's not supposed to be any more psychoactive really than any other alcohol out there. But because of some things that happened, I guess some stories that were fabricated or what have you, or exaggerated, it kind of got deemed the one that would make you trip out because of the wormwood. But again, it's trace amounts, and that's kind of where it is. But it's back, baby. So they reintroduced absinthe in I want to say the 1990s in the United States, and then they started putting wormwood back in it because they had actually an alternative without the wormwood to make people feel safe about not tripping out. But it's back. I'm sure you probably saw that on your bottle. It's like with real wormwood or whatever. They like to advertise it.
And mine has a picture of a fairy on it.
Yes, they called it the Green Fairy. That was the other
in fact,
nickname for it.
The bottle, I think it says the Green Fee.
Ooh, hey.
That's the name of the absinthe, is Green Fee.
Did you feel kind of cool though, like dropping that sugar cube in it and then dropping some droplets, like it was like LSD almost? Huh?
Yeah, like it was a scientific experiment, like I was about to get down.
Yeah, it was quite ritualistic. I do like it. But I did get the spoon, the crazy little spoon that you'll see in a lot of the pictures. And that's where you like literally set the sugar cube on there and pour the shit on top of it and kind of melts in there in the glass. And you even are supposed to dilute like absinthe when you drink it ritualistically with the sugar cube and the little spoon and all that shit. You're supposed to dilute it with like 3 ounces of water or something like that. So no punk bitch. They know it's strong. They don't want you overdoing it, Bob. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of like Everclear. Right, in that sense.
Yeah.
Where Everclear says, do not drink by itself. Like you're not supposed to drink Everclear as a shot.
That's a really interesting taste, man. I just had another sip. I want to think it's going to get sweeter because of the champagne, but no. The champagne just adds like a bubbly texture to it. Have you noticed that? I think the bitters and the absinthe really kind of cut like any of the champagne taste from any of the aftertaste. It's a very interesting cocktail. I am actually a little bit upset at us, but hey, better late than never that we haven't had one of these. And I'm actually very upset with myself that I've never even once Googled what are the strongest fucking cocktails in the world. You know what I mean? I got a show here called The Stiff Truth. We got to do it justice, buddy. But the other one I told you about, which will be coming up soon to a show near you, the what was it, Aunt Roberta or something like that, the one that was developed by a 1900 prostitute or something like that,
a one-legged prostitute named Chloe with webbed feet.
But I'll tell you guys, if you haven't already, just for the novelty factor, really, go get yourself some absinthe. I thought it was pretty damn cool to purchase it yesterday. I felt good. It was the first time I didn't have any type of buyer's remorse for buying an expensive bottle of booze I've never had before, because I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Does yours have a nice little green shade to it?
It's super green. Yeah, it's
cool,
super green, like mouthwash green. It's crazy green.
Oh, all right.
And then I felt a little dirty for buying it, so I went and got it at Kelly's, which is Asian American owned. So
not that there's anything wrong with that, Bob.
There's nothing wrong with that, but it's very funny because it's very stereotypical liquor store when you go in there, right?
Everything's
they double bagged it with everything is marked up. Oh yeah, that's why I was telling you these outrageous prices. You're like, really? Mine was only $45. And I was like, well, here it's $58 because that's just how it is here. But they bag everything in these plain black plastic bags. So when you leave, you kind of like have the shame of like leaving the porn store. So it's pretty awesome. Like you get your absinthe and you're walking out and you're like looking around to make sure like no one you know is just saw you walk out the door.
What you got there, Bob? That's not extremely filthy nymphets volume 49. No way, man. It's absinthe, I swear.
It's for my wife. It's she's into the absinthe. She's into it.
Ooh, yeah. I have, this is a crystal champagne flute, like real crystal.
Yeah, it's very fancy. I was looking around and I don't have a nice set of shot glasses for the bar and I don't have champagne flutes. Something I got to remedy. It is because I keep finding myself needing them, and it's lowbrow me not having them.
Well, I feel like I have
better.
Yeah, and I feel like I have to bring up a PSA that for your benefit here. I don't know if anybody remembers here, but not too long ago, pretty kind of monumental thing happened in Bob's life, and he purchased a brand, his first house, and there's kind of this practice where friends of the show and friends and family buy housewarming gifts. So if anybody's out there feeling like, hey, you know what, maybe Bob needs a congratulations from me, there you go, buddy, kind of thing. Champagne flutes are on his list, and a nice set of shot glasses are on his list. Do not get him a ice maker because I'm already doing that. But just throwing that out there. You know what I mean? So, I mean, even in lieu of being a patron of the show, for Christ's sakes, get Bob a housewarming gift. He needs some shit.
I'll put my housewarming list from Lowe's in the description. It'll be like the maternity, the baby shower list, or the wedding list, the registry.
Yeah, the registry with Home Depot and Lowe's.
I'll get the registry on the page, guys. That's awesome,
dude. Home Depot's, Lowe's, Bed Bath and Beyond. That's all you need, dude. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know about Bed Bath Beyond. I don't know if we'll have enough time.
Come on, Christ! Who can't use a little old school reference? Love that. Well, again, I know we spent a little bit more time talking about the drink, but this is actually a really exciting cocktail. I feel rejuvenated about our cocktail, sir, from introducing the Death in the Afternoon today. I'm just feeling good.
Like a little bit of anal rejuvenation surgery.
Mm-hmm. Or when I get my anus bleached, at least.
It is a very interesting taste.
It's a very interesting taste.
Almost licorice.
Mm-hmm. The bitters is what does it. I bet you, because it says the bitters are optional. And looking at the Hemingway one, there's no sugar cube in this drink, nor is there bitters in his original one. But in our bartender book, it's like, hey, this is how you do it. So this is kind of the standard or what have you. So I was like, let's do it this way. I will tell you this too. And I think you know this about me. I won't get too detailed, but it was also interesting buying sugar cubes. I haven't bought sugar cubes since I was 17 years old, and I was doing something. I was
very wholesome.
I was being an entrepreneur. Let's just put it that way. And it was the first time I bought sugar cubes in a long time. I was like, this brings back memories of dropping stuff on sugar cubes. But any old way. Let's move on with the show, Bob. We've got some.
For those that don't know, Scott was 17 in the 60s. He looks great for his age.
And to be specific, it was the mid 60s in the San Francisco Bay Area.
That's right.
Dude, that's neither here nor there.
Him and Bill Walton just hanging out and getting chummy.
But moving right on to the bulk of the episode, the bulk, sir, of the show. We're going to talk about some voting, baby. And first of all, I want to dive into this. You had mentioned at the beginning of the show here, and I don't know how you feel about this. We actually haven't talked about this. And I know it's their prerogative, right? It's their prerogative. Big business, private businesses, if they want to take a stance on certain things, and they may not be looking at it from a partisan lens, right? But I thought it was, it's interesting that you got Coca-Cola, you got Delta Airlines. I'm just naming some off the top of my head. Major League Baseball. They've all, publicly come out and said they've got a problem with the new law in Georgia when it comes to voter requirements. And essentially, just to kind of, I guess, sum this up quickly here, Georgia passed a law very recently, I'm sure everybody knows, which is going to mandate having some form of photo ID to vote in their elections now moving forward. Correct? I think I got that right. Is there anything I missed?
Yeah, for in-person voting.
In-person voting, right? And Now, right out of the gate here, I will say this: the things that I've heard from the opposition, I understand some of it. Yeah, I could see how the you know, how the dots were connected or what have you, but I don't necessarily feel there is true voter suppression as a motive or even as a side effect from this rule. But it's definitely got that narrative from the left, and I think MLB and some other companies are saying that, and even President Joe Biden is basically saying this law is Jim Crow on steroids. If I think I'm actually quoting him correctly, which I don't know. I think that's a little bit blown out of proportion. But Bob, I want to get your take here on first and foremost here. What do you think about MLB's decision to pull the All-Star game out of Atlanta and move it to Denver, Colorado, which I'm not sad about or anything like that. But
Well, I mean, it's their prerogative, right? Um, if they want to weigh the risk or whatever of picking up a political side on any issue, that is a risk management thing that corporations have to do on their own. I don't see inherently any problems with it because for me, that's just capitalism. They just want to do whatever they think is going to make them the most money, and they think if they pick this other side, that they're going to then benefit from it from the majority and make their money. I don't think that it has a whole lot to do with ethics, as it normally never does. Again, capitalist move, but in a capitalist free market economy, you're running the risk of corporations dipping into politics on their own volition, right? With no state intervention like you would in some of the other types of societies. But again, if Coca-Cola wants to weigh in, I don't think it's any different than the My Pillow guy weighing in. I don't think it's any different than Goya Beans being on the president's desk.
But he's got Giza sheets. So, I mean, apples and oranges, Bob. But anyways, continue.
So, it is what it is. I don't have any inherent problems with companies doing whatever the fuck they feel like they want to do, as long as it's not, infringing on any, civil liberties or breaking any laws themselves when they want to do it. And it's a marketing maneuver that they decide is what they want to do. Then again, this is America, you do you. And as long as you're not hurting me, then there's not a whole lot I can say about it, because that's just kind of the drawbacks of living in a free country, is when you don't like it when other people are also free.
God damn it. You know what I mean? If that guy would not be doing what he wants to in his own fucking lawn, you know what I mean? It really bugs me. But no, I have to agree with you 100% in the sense that, how do I feel about MLB doing this? I don't feel too one way or the other. You know what I mean? It really doesn't affect me because of everything you just said, in the sense that I don't want to repeat what you said. But on top of that, we all know, and you had mentioned this too, these decisions are made for profit. These are for profit decisions. You know what I mean? When they're looking at this right now, the majority of people and the majority of the public are blue. They're left, right? And they definitely are going to speak to a larger majority of people if they side with that. I mean, that just makes sense. I mean, that's a straight, very easy business decision, right? You're like, hey, you know what? This is something that people are going to be outraged about. Obviously, regardless of how we all feel personally, this is the way we're going to go to make more money and to, kind of be in the good graces of more people just by numbers. But that's all fine. Do I have any opinion either about whether or not big business should get involved politically? No, I really don't. I think it might be, I wouldn't say low class or anything like that, because again, it's all for profit kind of moves. They're doing this to appease to their member base in a certain sense. And yeah, they may be losing fans or whatever, but I don't think Major League Baseball is hurting if they're still paying ridiculously sized contracts.
Mike Trout got like a $500 million.
You know what I mean? I don't think
okay.
I don't think they're going to need a bailout anytime soon, is what I'm trying to say from the government. So, so I don't really have an opinion there at all, in the sense where I don't give two shits. What I do think is interesting, though, is the outcry and the uproar from the right about it, about these companies. They want to boycott them. They want to do all this. Coca-Cola, Delta now, let's boycott them. MLB, fuck MLB. We don't even fucking need you guys, which is pretty interesting because ironically enough, you've got the right always yelling about cancel culture, and rightfully so. You know what I mean? It's getting out of hand to a certain extent. We've talked about it before on the show, but man, they sure do want to cancel a lot of shit too when it doesn't meet their criteria. You know what I mean? So we saw this time and time again too. Colin Kaepernick, he was canceled by the right. Fuck, the NFL was canceled by the right to a certain extent. There's still,
for like a whole season.
Yeah, there's still people I talk to that used to be diehard football fans that refuse to watch NFL games. And when I'm like, why? Because some of their players are kneeling during the national anthem.
I have family members that don't even like watch their favorite team anymore.
It's fucking sad because one, I get it. We can get into the weeds here. And I've said this before. I think the NFL kneeling during the, the presentation of the colors and the national anthem. I understand what they're doing. I do understand that it's not about spitting in the face of fucking soldiers and their families and other people that have died fighting for our freedoms. That doesn't make any fucking sense. And I think if there was any inclination that that was the case, there would be no kneeling in football. You know what I mean? That's not the fucking case. However, it's really nuts to me that people will look at it that way, even though it's explained by the people that are doing the kneeling that this is not the case. We're not shitting on the flag or shitting on America. Quite the opposite. We're protesting because this is America, and we're allowed to do that if we don't agree with certain things that are going on in the country. But still, you've got people, diehard football fans, that refuse to watch it. They're disgusted with it because of the kneeling, even though they're not really understanding the purpose of the kneeling. So it's neither here nor there. Now, do I think this is the right venue? Not really. I just want to see football. I think everybody else can agree that, do we want to watch football players now get up and make speeches about human rights? No. Is it their prerogative to do that? If they've got a mic and people are willing to listen and turn cameras on, that's their gig. You know what I mean? Is it really going to make a big impact? Probably not. But again, that's not my decision to make. I can't really judge that here nor there. So that's fine. But I am very happy about the MLB All-Star game moving to Denver. Apparently it's going to bring $100 million to our city. So fuck you, Atlanta.
And it's going to have, like tens of thousands of people testing positive for marijuana on their way out.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, oh, come on. Give us one more. You got another one in there?
No, I'm a two guy. I'm a two for guy. So
2 for 2. We'll see you back at 2 for 2. So,
Utah. Give me 2.
Yeah. Hey, right over there. Best steak sandwiches in the city. Best goddamn steak sandwiches. So that's kind of where my head's at. Now, that's pretty indecisive here. Fuck yeah. Come on. 3 for 3. There it is. That's what I'm talking about, baby. Just when you said you're
right
a 2
there,
guy.
I just sneezed more than free throw Shaq made
in his entire rookie season. But so there's that, right? Now, the other thing here is the MLB made this decision, right? Atlanta lost a lot of money. That's pretty much the MLB's play here, right? You're like, what can we do here? Well, we could take $100 million out of your city real fucking quick. The last time I checked, every city needs money right now. We're just now, crawling out of a pandemic, so to speak. So there is that. Now, flipping the script again, Bob, I want to talk to you about this because, again, I'm scratching my head here a little bit, especially after doing some research. This is the left's big thing here with this law in other states that require people to have photo ID is it's voter suppression. And again, just to sum this up quickly here, my understanding is the reason being is minorities, elderly, and people in poverty have a harder time getting certain types of identification, paying for certain types of identification, and keeping current identification. Now, okay, that kind of makes sense to me. However, Bob, I don't necessarily, again, think the law in Georgia is surrounded around suppressing the votes of certain people. I just don't think it is, but I'm going to pass it to you here and let you kind of dive into this a little bit as well.
So just in general, we even talked about this on Tuesday about, what's wrong with having an ID to vote? Well, we all have IDs. right?
This is true. This is true.
We want to buy booze. We get an ID so that we can go buy booze,
I'll
right?
tell you what, that fucker's always current too, because I
Right. Oh,
know.
dude, I just got a new one to update my address because I'm that guy.
Wow. You know what? And we did talk about this. I literally did not have an ID with my previous address on it at all. Ever. So I basically had an unauthorized form of identification for about 5 years.
Yeah, and you can get a ticket for it.
Yeah.
And then you have to go to court and you have to go get a new ID anyway, and then you have to take it to court and show the judge that you updated and he'll drop the case. But it's ridiculous. But it is the law, right? So but then I started looking into it, like why I literally like Googled why is requiring an ID voter suppression, right? To see what I could find. I actually found some interesting things. One of them was an actual it was a research paper. Whoa. Why did it get all huge? That's what she said. So
Bob, no, she didn't.
So-
why is it short and shriveled and to the left? You're all, because I like the left. That's my good side.
So one was this paper done by Richard Sobel, and it was called "The High Cost of Free Voter ID Cards."
Sure.
And it was done by the Harvard Law School Institute for Race and Justice. So, legit. It was in 2014. And one of the interesting things in there was that struck me like right away when I started looking at it. And I said, well, obviously this is to prevent voter fraud and in-person voting. Well, when I started looking into how much voter fraud happens with in-person voting, what I found was like none. Like there's no voter fraud with in-person voting. So in this guy's research, right, he did 2010 to 2014. There was over 1 billion votes cast in America. And there was 31 instances of in-person voter fraud, not convictions, just instances where people had claimed it or whatever. So that wasn't even the people that were found guilty, which is probably much smaller than that. But just 31 instances out of 1 billion votes. So I'm no Andrew Yang.
Yes, there it is. There it is.
But it seems to me that if 31 divided by 1 billion is not very fucking much. There's a point and a bunch of zeros before you actually get to that 31, right? So
this is true.
So what it tells me is, are we then fixing a problem that doesn't exist? So with the in-person voting thing, well, then it was, is there a cost associated with this? And then so the Supreme Court actually ruled if states wanted to have voter ID requirements that they can.
Yeah,
but then they have
to
to offer a method to a path to get your ID to vote, like education or whatever. So there's state sponsored, we'll help you get your ID thing and all that, right? So Indiana was the first state to do this in 2002 or 3.
That seems
and Indiana spends $2 or $3 million a year with this voter ID assistance program, and then pollers actually checking IDs for in-person voting. So there is a cost to implementing this. So if it's $2 to $3 million for a state the size of Indiana, which is obviously not the largest populated state, but if there's that price tag, are we really spending $2 to $3 million for everyone the size of Indiana to fix a problem that seems to not really exist? So that was the first red flag that I looked at when I was just like, well, I don't necessarily like the idea of spending taxpayer money to fix a problem that doesn't exist, or that exists in such a nominal way that we really shouldn't allocate millions of dollars to fix.
It's interesting too. Well, the other thing that I found out, again, going back to the voter suppression thing in Georgia specifically, is okay. And we talked about this having a couple weeks ago. This was a very, very just innocent, curious conversation that we had too, because we were both scratching our head a little bit. You're like, well, I mean, really, a voter ID? I mean, I have an ID. Is this bad? And then you had mentioned too, it's like, well, again, what if it's expired? You know what I mean? Or what if this, then you can't vote, or, you've got to pay money for it. Or if you don't qualify for certain reasons to get a certain type of identification.
Or what if you moved and you didn't update your address?
Yeah. What if you moved? What I thought was very interesting is in Georgia, the identification that they find necessary is pretty flexible. And there's even a Georgia's voter identification card that is given out free by the county that you live in. So again, to me, by the way, too, they also will take an expired ID as well, an expired driver's license or expired identification card.
That's nice of them.
As long as it's got your picture on it. So I started looking at all this. I was like, okay, I'm really, again, not seeing the voter suppression here at all, especially since they have the rule. And this is apparent in a few states, though, where if they do require photo ID, you can literally get a free identification card that's just for voting. So, again, I'm not really getting that at all. But like you had just mentioned here, is that even necessary? No, it's really not. There's 36 states that require some form of identification. Some just like a bank statement will do. You know what I mean? Which is like
I was telling you before the show, New Mexico doesn't require a voter ID to go vote. However, they do require that you verify your identity when you register to vote, and you can't vote unless you register. You can't vote unless your registration is current with your current address. Yada, 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 yada. So you prove all of this shit before you go. So then you don't actually, it's redundant then to have to prove it the day of. There's other states that are similar to that where they do require an ID or your birth certificate or whatever forms that you can prove you are who you say you are and you live where you say you live. But it's part of the registration process more so than the ID part.
Here's what I think, Bob. Stay with me here too. There's already a handful of states that have always had very strict voter, photo ID, current photo ID, not even as flexible as the ones in Georgia.
Since 2003, that was the first one.
Well, and again, there's been no outcry about this until 2020. Is what I'm trying to say, right? There was not in 2016.
Really until Georgia happened.
Yeah, until Georgia actually flipped their long-standing run of picking Republicans versus Democrats. And they're like, wait, something needs to be wrong because there's no goddamn way that any state's population could potentially change their mind a little bit, right? That just doesn't happen in real life. So I think on both ends of the table, because there's always been a handful of states very strict. There's 36 states that require some kind of photo ID. Nobody's ever screamed about fabrication and illegal, just fraudulent voting up until really 2016, I think, when people started questioning it, because that's when their feelings got hurt the most. You got Donald Trump winning, so the left got really mad. And in 2020, you've got the right being extremely mad and calling all kinds of bullshit too. Anytime where there's a paradigm shift in a state, usually that goes one way, switching to the other, that's got to be voter fraud, right? It can't be voter turnout. It can't be that one candidate is so fucking horrible that people are just voting for the other one. It has to be voter fraud. So my point of going through this little song and dance here, I literally think the outcry from both ends of the table is a knee-jerk reaction to the results of the election. That's what I honestly think, right? Because again, like you had mentioned, there hasn't been a lot of voter fraud in in-person voting. There is the likelihood that you could have a lot of voter fraud in the mail. A lot of people will say that because it transitions through so many hands and you don't really see where it goes. That's fine, whatever. But still, some form of mail-in voting has always been around, at least for people that just can't go to the polls.
Well, only since the last 170 years. Yeah, so
not forever, but you know what I mean?
Not forever.
So, and here's what I think, though. What happened here is the voter turnout in 2020 was obviously a majority Democratic, right? It was Democrat. So by HR 1 and the rules in there about having very flexible, anybody and their fucking illegal mom can vote in our elections, they're thinking that the special emergency voting protocols that they put in place for 2020 only because of the pandemic and looking to safeguard people from gathering around in large groups, they feel that did go in their favor. Hey, if we let them vote for wherever and let whoever vote, they're going to vote for us. Let's make sure this is the law of the land moving forward. I think that's the hardcore liberal point of view. If you want to go into the weeds about them being vindictive and having a purpose behind all this, and quite the opposite on the right as well, right? It's like, hey, Georgia, always a tried and true Republican state when it really comes down to brass tacks. There's no way that this can flip. Is okay. The rules in 2020 allowed way too many people to fabricate their votes and do all kinds of illegal voting. And that's the only reason why we lost. We need to tighten the fucking belt here about voter IDs and all these other stuff to make sure that legal citizens are voting, because obviously if only legal citizens are voting, they're going to be voting Republican, right? So I think that's the very far left and right narrative and point of view about what happened. And it's all because of the outcome. The liberals love the outcome of the 2020 election. The Republicans are scared shitless of what happened in the 2020 election. And this is their way of putting the Band-Aid on, so to speak.
And I do agree with you about the GOP being scared. So when I was looking into this, and like I said, I started this with like the whole thought process was me and you talked about. It's not that big of a deal to go get an idea and keep it current. But then I thought, it's not that big of an idea. It's not that big of a deal for me and Scott, two upper middle class families to go get that, right?
That's just say we're privileged white males. Okay?
We are, in a better financial position than some in the country. Sure. And then I was like, well, most people can do that. And that's 100% true. Most people can't. And then I started thinking, well, okay, so let's say my 75-year-old, grandmother or whatever is on a fixed income.
Damn, your grandmother's young. My dad's almost that old.
She only gets like, $600 a month. She's in a home, but so she's on a fixed income. She just doesn't have that much. And so then it's just like, well, if she can get a free ID card, how much does that really cost? Well, so she doesn't have a birth certificate because it got lost when her kids decided to put her in a home or whatever. So now she's got to go get that from the hospital, whatever. So I started looking at about what does it really cost, the intangible cost. Well, now I got to get the documentation together, and roughly it's around $100. If you don't have your birth certificate, you need to get transportation to and from, especially if you're old and you haven't driven in 10 years. You have to procure that somehow, or you do have to pull some things. So I could see then how there's a small percentage of people that could be marginalized with this that do have a difficult time kind of obtaining this stuff. But then I thought, well, how many? Does that really matter? What are we talking about here? Like one grandma out of 100,000 people, is that really going to sway the vote? Well, I found out that roughly 20 million people in America don't have a driver's license. A lot of them live in the inner cities. They don't need to drive, so they don't really care. Then he's like, well, don't you drink? No, not everyone drinks. But when you start adding all these people up everywhere, it does add into like a percentage point or two of a chance. So, and I don't know if it would truly make an impact, because how do you study that? Because half of those people may be Republican, half of those people I don't think it's partisan.
Half of those people, because of their situation and other variables, don't vote. Maybe you have no idea. Right. Like just because of my situation, it doesn't matter who's in the office. I don't even give a fuck because of my situation. It's so that's really hard to tell. Absolutely
right. So it would affect a small percentage of chance. I think the thing that got Georgia GOP, because the Republicans definitely control the legislative houses in Georgia and the governorship, so they can pass whatever fuck laws they feel like passing.
Sure.
I think when they saw the amount of votes come out in Georgia and they lost, mostly due to, Stacey Abrams and the Democratic Party hitting the ground and really trying to stir up the fear and stir up the vote, right? But I think once they saw when the turnout was really high that Georgia's not as red and as comfortable as they had taken it for granted for so long. That's when I thought that they felt they needed to pass some laws and see if they could trim that down. Because I think the overall tide in this country is going the Democrats' way. I think if you just added it all up, just body by body, no county by county, no gerrymandering, no districts or anything. If you just took sole population, I think you would see that there's a higher percentage of Democrats by a fair degree in this country. And I think it's even more so with the younger generation. So I think that stirred up the GOP into action. And that's why you saw a lot of these laws coming all through, because if Georgia can go blue, Scott, could Texas go blue? Because if Texas went blue, the GOP essentially is a dying party.
Well, and you're absolutely right. And the other thing too is election was pretty fucking close in Texas, a lot closer than they thought it was going to be. And here's the other thing, Bob. It's a really great point. I think the other thing that they looked at, there's numbers too, and that's why the law went this way, is I saw this during the election turnout. The overwhelming majority of mail-in votes were Democrat. Overwhelming majority, and whatever that means, right? Again, I'm not going to get into the weeds here about just again some shady shit, but when you look at that and say, oh, you know what, it looks like we're doing pretty well, it's like, yeah, but we haven't counted the mail-in votes yet, and then all of a sudden those are overwhelmingly blue and kind of put everything over the top. That's the other reason they're looking at that. They're all, where do we put the cork in this shit? And mail-in voting right out of the gate. That's where the problem is. And I don't think it really has anything to do with voter fraud at the end of the day. It's just that they're overwhelmingly blue. So we need to put a stop to that. That's what I think is interesting. Literally this for the people, we the people fucking HR1 bullshit bill. A lot of it is very bullshit. It's not for the people. It's for the Democrats. They want to stay in power and they want to make their power greater.
Well, of course it is. It's being proposed by nothing but Democrats.
Right.
It's not like it's bipartisan and there's a few Republicans saying this is great for the country.
Yeah. Taking the shackles off of any kind of requirements to voting seems like a move that will get them overwhelmingly more and more votes exponentially. Removing the filibuster, packing the court, all these things are real things that they are doing right now because they are in power and they don't want to lose their power. People, don't get it twisted that the government or either party does anything for our fucking best interest. Vice versa with these voting laws. This is not for integrity of fucking voting. It's so Republicans can get more votes. At least they think, right? So that's what I really think it comes down to when you get down to brass tacks, which is, again, makes me understand why there's so much to debate right now. You know what I mean? With these facades.
And Scott, you'll hear it like all the time on the news about, this is about voter integrity. But you'll also hear it slip a couple of times, as it already has, of a couple of congressmen straight up saying, if we don't slow down the vote, we won't win.
Yeah.
And it's literally come out of people's mouths. I don't have the list of people ready, but it's come out of some prominent Republicans' mouths about if we don't do something about voter turnout, we will lose. And that's just how that is. And it's true. And I was talking to Jess about that, about, if anything ever happened and Texas got a Democratic surge, because Texas has had Democratic governor. When I was growing up in Texas, we had Ann Richards for the longest time, Democratic governor. So it's not impossible for Texas to go blue. And I think it was like 4 or 5 points in the presidential race. So if Texas were to go blue, that means the Democrats get California, New York, and Texas. Game over. It's just game over. And I think that it's clear. It's not rocket science. So this is that effort. And anyone that thinks that these laws are really about integrity, I mean, just look it up. Look at how many times that voter fraud even happens. And when voter fraud happens, it's always by a politician. It's not by individual voters.
And it's always by the party who loses, that cries the voter fraud too. So that's always cute. Nobody ever says like, you know what? I really appreciate winning, but it seemed like it was a little too easy. We need to look at
We need to look in this possibility of voter fraud. I won by 8 votes.
This is not right. This is not right. But the other thing too, and I'll just mention this, I don't want to get too far into this, but it was one of the big things here that I had with the whole idea of this. We talked about this, and we talked about, it was contrary to what I'm going to say a while back, how, there should be frictionless, just complete frictionless kind of access to voting, right? Everybody should be able to vote very easily. How dare somebody's vote not be counted? We talked about this. So I do wholeheartedly now change my opinion there and say, I disagree with that. I don't feel that every Joe Schmo that's being yelled at by Republicans or Democrats, you need to get out there and vote. I know you don't give two shits, but you have to get out there and vote. Why should I vote? Because I want you to vote this way, and I want this guy out of office, or I want this guy in office. So you need to go do that because I want it. Those people that are actually influenced by that, I'm not really sure how much their votes really matter, nor are they are they a picture of what we actually think as a society, right? Because think about it. If you convince somebody to vote a certain way and they don't really give two shits, or they actually maybe disagree, but they're just highly influenceable, is that really a good representation of how people feel? I don't think so. So I do think there needs to be some skin in the game. I do think that you need to make some sacrifice to be able to vote. And man, apparently all you need to do is fucking just probably phone it in or get on your computer and say, hey, in Georgia, I want one of these fucking voter ID cards. They're free. Thank you very much. Send that to me. I think you at least need to do something like that to vote because it shows that you're actually giving a fuck. And I think that makes a big, big difference, Bob.
So I'm sure this is some crazy voter suppression. I don't know if it would be right or left. That's probably debatable. But what if you had to pass a civics test to vote? Fuck voter ID. Just what if you had to understand how the United States government worked before you could actually vote? Voting totals would be like, well, 2 million Republicans to 2 million Democrats in the presidential election. And that would weed out like, 200 million votes.
I'm gonna take a stab at liberals there, but if you threw in just a quick macroeconomics test too, then it'd be like 4 or 5 Democrats and a bunch of Republicans.
Right. You at least need to know what like GDP stands for, or you don't get to vote on this bill involving economics. So, right. and another thing, as I'm looking at all this, and as I've been taking, some history.
Hey, we love that.
I have been reading over the time since, the colonial times and up, and voter suppression. So often I hear, we can't suppress the votes. Everyone needs to be able to vote. If you're a citizen, you deserve to vote because that's American. I would argue that nothing is more American than suppressing the right to vote.
Exactly.
It's been done over the years in different ways. Used to have to be landowners to vote. Used to have a certain net value, net worth to vote. You have to be a certain class of people to vote. You obviously had to be a male landowning citizen to vote. There's so much voter
Jesus Christ, like for the longest time, African Americans were considered 3/5 of a person when it came to status and being able to do things in the country. So no, 100%. And that's the other thing too that's interesting to me is you're absolutely right. If you actually had people that had to take a test to quiz their knowledge and understanding of how government, city, state, federal, how that all works, and then honestly, those people probably are going to be a little bit more educated about policies that are being presented, right? The candidates, what they actually stand for, how that's actually going to impact your life. Yeah, I think votes would be a lot less, but they would be more, let's just say it, legitimate in the sense of this vote really counts. You know what I mean? So I think that's something that really has been lost in the weeds here. I don't think anybody, and right and left, I don't think anybody really wants you to be educated on everything their policies are going to do that they're presenting, because same thing with bills they put in front of Congress, right? I mean, like the details, the politicians don't even know like most of the details that are in these bills, right? Because there's always something underlying there that's going to affect somebody else negatively to get what they want. And yeah, I just don't see a lot of people voting at all, but I do see a lot more people's voting actually matter. And that's a big thing. So I really do think what happened, and I'll just say this too, what happened in the 2020 election, I will say that an overwhelming majority, because you'll say, oh, there was more voter turnout than ever before, blah, 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 blah. I honestly think that a lot of people that turned out to vote were persuaded to vote a certain way, or they were listening to so much of the media that they got out and vote because they've been chanting, get out and vote early, vote now, vote fucking 6 years ago for this election. Just get out and do it. And I just think a lot of people were persuaded to vote a certain way. Even if that persuasion was Donald Trump's an embarrassment, I need to get off my ass and finally vote because so many people are upset that he's the president, or vice versa, right? Joe Biden's going to bring he's not even alive anymore. The far left is going to take over and push him aside and get all their crazy shit.
Kamala's got him up there with a stream.
Exactly.
So a couple of things. First off, if you required a civics test to vote, almost all legal immigrants would pass that test because how hard it is to get your citizenship, right? And a lot of Americans wouldn't. But I would say that left and right, you hear the word sheeple and sheep a lot. There are so many dumb fucks on the left and the right, both. There is no partisanship of dumb fuckery. And yeah, I said it.
Dumb
and
fuckery. I like that.
and there's so many people that'll just vote because they've been persuaded with
Mhm.
someone manipulating their identity to vote a certain way that they're just going to go vote what this guy said or what this newscaster said or what Maddow or Tucker said or whatever the hell. And they don't even really understand what the fuck is going on, what a minority whip is, or even if that is a person in Congress.
I thought a minority whip was a badass Pontiac. You know what I mean?
I thought it went back to pre-Civil War days. So
Jesus Christ.
so, but still, there's so many there's so many people that vote that have no idea about what's going on. What the argument was about last year's fiscal budget that literally shut down the government for a month. No one pays attention. No one knows. They just get all fired up on emotions because their identity has been threatened that someone that believes in other things might win, that they'll go vote. And I think that is so wrong. And I don't know how we fix it.
Can I give you a good example too? And I don't know if you got a chance to listen to it, but I love the example that Dave Smith uses in Part of the Problem in that episode of Lazy Voting. But again, having some skin in the game, this is like the whole point. Like people should actually have to put some fucking effort into voting and having their vote really matter. But he equates it to being a comedian because he's a comedian. And he talks about how comedians that can't really draw a crowd, right, when they're headlining, they do something called papering the room. And papering the room is essentially where they just give out a bunch of free tickets, right? So that way they can fill up the room. They can look really good when they're headlining, right? You can ask any comedian, you can ask any audience member. When that happens, the audience is very, very weak. They're never a good audience. It's never a good show because, again, if you're just push something and say, here, please vote for me. Why? Because I'm just here. Just press this button. That's all you need to do to vote for me. Just press this fucking button, right? And that kind of scenario, when you paper the room in comedy, you always have a bunch of people that they weren't drawn to see this comedian. They didn't get out their wallet and pay. They didn't pre-plan. They didn't take vacation. They didn't fucking get a hotel room. They didn't do any of that shit. These are people on the street that are just walking in because it's a free lunch, so to speak. You know what I mean? So I love that way of kind of just demonstrating how it is when people vote when they really don't give a fuck. It's kind of the same thing, right? You're not getting a great room of voters when you just give it away like that. You have to have some kind of effort, and you always have people that are more involved, more excited, more passionate about the outcome when they put some skin in the game. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and also just with voting in general, with people just not understanding, what the fuck's happening all the time. I don't know, like, I don't know how you fix it, right? I don't know how you do that. I do know that all of these things and all the, is this voter suppression? Is this not? Is IDs legit or IDs not? That can be argued left and right all day. I'm going to take a firm stance on in-person voting. I think that in-person voting should be the last resort. I think that in-person voting should not be the number one way to vote. I think that's how boomers that are afraid of, that's how they get you, and doing it online. I think that's how the boomers should go vote, because they're afraid of like banking online, because that's how they follow you and track you, and they're telling you this on their cell phone. And
yeah.
Right. But I think we should all have an app, all of the functioning Americans that are actually contributing the majority of the taxes and contributing to society in meaningful ways. We should just have the app that we can verify. How come I can log into my phone with my fingerprint and go right into my bank account, but I can't go vote that way? That's just ridiculous. And I know we've talked about this before in the show. This is the final answer. Like, get multi-factor authentication, get your shit all set up. And then if these people want to go get the sheeple, they have to walk them through how to fucking do that electronically, digitally. If you guys want to put in the effort to get your undereducated left or righties to go blindly vote for your cause so you can pump up numbers, then you have to put the expense on it, your party's expense, to go walk them through this dumbass at how to set up multi-factor authentication and download and install this app and get through all of that. That should be on them. Maybe that's a better answer. Maybe we can weed out some of the don't care votes that way.
Yeah, well, and I'm going to disagree a little bit there on the in-person voting being the last resort or what have you. I think it's fine. I've voted in person for every election except for this one due to COVID. You know what I mean? I've got no problem with it. It's actually kind of fun. You know what I mean? That's just me. I like
Would
the
you
voter booth.
vote in person if you could do it on your phone?
It really depends. It really depends. Probably not if it was the norm that you could do it this way, but I would still have to make some kind of sacrifice. That's all I'm saying. I think there's meaning you have to put some time into it. That's all I mean by that, right? I'm not talking about sacrificing your firstborn or something like that, but literally you have to put some kind of time in to be a legitimate voter. I think that's the case. I don't like the idea of anybody being able to send in a ballot and have no way of knowing who the fuck that person is or if they're even a citizen of the United States. That to me is a little bit shady, right? Because you could literally have one guy mailing in fucking hundreds of ballots with different people's names on it.
Well, that
That's
wouldn't
not
work,
cool.
though. You have to have a social security card.
So what if he just started pulling up dead people and started sending it in? Nobody was checking it. I mean, you have to pay for people to check that these are legit. They're not deceased people, right?
I don't think that's very realistic.
Oh, you don't? There's
No.
dead people that vote in every election. Not even, and they've never
Yeah,
complained
but
about this until recently.
When that ever happens, it's because of
How?
someone
Hey, wait,
got
wait.
there
Let's back up.
recently.
How does that really happen?
It's because someone had submitted to get their absentee ballot, and when it came, they had passed, but their son or daughter then got it and sent it off for them anyway. It happened twice in Pennsylvania just the last election.
That's a great story, but it's wrong, Bob. What happens is there's ghosts that are voting. Okay. We all know this. I know it seems a little bit far-fetched, Bob, but deceased people are so outraged by Donald Trump that they got up and voted against him.
I'm just not a big proponent of voter fraud in general because I just don't think in our electorate and electoral college that one vote really hardly ever matters, that anyone will risk federal prison time for it.
Yeah, well, that's neither here nor there. That's what I'm saying. I still like the idea of having some kind of effort to vote. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? Whether that be, and again, to set up an account like through let's say the voting app. Yes, if there is work that has to be done and you got to show 5 different types of ID and you've got to give a semen sample or whatever, do it. Go, let's get it done. You know what I mean? Let's make, and then once you're set up, you're set up. You're good. You're good for the rest of your life.
Well, I'm sure
you
have to scan your shit and send it in and have someone verify it and sign you up on the other side, right? Because there'd have to be that verification the same way that when you register to vote, but you could do it digitally. I just don't understand why we're not there right now. I mean, Elon Musk is trying to send people to colonize Mars and we can't vote on our phone. It's very strange.
You make a good point though, too. And we've talked about this again on the show before, what have you. If we can literally get into our bank account, send people money from our bank account, do other things from our phones and from our computers that's financially, backed or whatever. I don't understand how we can't figure this out. I mean,
What's that?
Doesn't make
Don't use your bank account? Use Venmo. Okay, Matt,
yeah,
I'll do that.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly, right?
Matt Gates says to use Venmo.
That's what he used. That's what he's used here. But
I'm an asshole. I interrupted you for that.
No, you're fine. In fact, I went ahead and poured myself a actual glass of champagne now.
Oh yeah. I'll probably do that in a second. I've got to.
You know why? Check it out.
More work.
I'll just have the champagne next to me. That's how I roll.
Also, once you open it, you're committed.
I can't throw this away. That's irresponsible.
Yeah, that's reckless in today's economy. You can't be wasteful like that.
Well, I'll tell you what, this whole voting thing, quite a game. It's quite a game, this whole voting debate. You know what I mean? Might as well be a game show. You know what I'm trying to say?
An old one where you can say innuendo to women and still get away with it?
Yeah, like the dude from who did Family Feud back in the day?
Richard Dawson? Wasn't it Richard Dawson?
Yeah, yes, it was. You know what's funny? Richard Dawson was also the game show host on Running Man, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
He was. Yep.
That's right, folks. We bring it back to Arnie once again, folks. But yeah, no, all kidding aside here, great conversation about the voting, Bob. Hopefully people listen to that because I think we have some good takeaways here. But let's get into the stiff truth, my friend. Excuse me. This is a nice drink here, and now I'm doubling up. I better be careful. But me and Bob wanted to talk about fucking game shows, man. Fucking A, dude. Like, talk about some of the best type of TV out there. What are the best game shows ever, Bobby. Let's hear it, baby.
Well, just from like a playing perspective, I always liked Wheel of Fortune and trying to like
Oh,
guess the
okay.
puzzle and act like you're so smart, right?
Going for the layup, huh?
And there was always Jeopardy's fun too, because then if you get it right, you feel like you're the smartest person ever in the history of the world, even though it's like the simplest question that everyone there and the audience knew.
Can I admit something to you here? It's kind of embarrassing, but I was that guy at one point where I would record Jeopardy, watch it, and then like play like a recording of Jeopardy with some people in the room and act like I was guessing all the answers right, like I was super smart, but I wasn't.
But you fooled them.
Yeah, I did. I fooled them. So
Mission accomplished.
for a minute there, I was the smartest man in the room. But anyways, I just wanted to give you that little tidbit. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think overall my favorite show ever, and there's several reasons for it, but I think I like The Price is Right. Um, it's a good one. We all grew up with Bob. We watched our grandpa get old on us.
Barker's Beauties, baby. Barker's
yeah,
Beauties.
and that's another thing. He always had the hottest chicks on there. He was like the conservative Hugh Hefner.
He was, wasn't he? He was the daytime Hugh Hefner. It was after he got out of the the smoking jacket and the robe and actually put on some real big boy pants. I like that.
Yeah, now there's some great runner-ups because there's been some pretty awesome shows over the years. But as far as like functional shows, and I think that old Drew does a great job now.
He does.
So it's still fun to play, and it's just like, well, let's guess these prices, and it's like, well, you're in Santa Barbara, so you're talking California prices, or because I'm in New Mexico, so it's a lot different here.
How the fuck is a gallon of milk $7? What the fuck? You're just like, it must be organic. I like that. I will tell you this. I was thinking about this. I was talking to Jamie about it, and I was like, you know what? Man, I used to wake up, and this was every morning on summer break back in the day. And we're going back to 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, whenever. You know what I mean? Every day of summer break, I had like a routine. I stayed up really late watching TV. You know what I mean? That's just what you did when you don't have to go to school. Yeah, you don't go to school.
Action-packed theater, baby.
Yeah, baby. I would get up probably around 9, 10-ish in the morning, make a big breakfast. And then at like 11 a.m. is when Price is Right came on, and I would be fucking locked into that TV for a solid hour. The Showcase Showdown, I always laughed at the people that gave up the good one and got a shittier one with like a pair of jet skis instead of the badass car. You're like, oh, dude, that sucks, dude. You live in fucking Arkansas too. What are you gonna do with those jet skis? But anyways, it was a great one. And then right after Price is Right, like Days of Our Lives would come on, and I just turn it right away. Obviously, Price is Right really got me in. The chicks were good. They were really hot chicks. Bob was amazing. And that really thin, long, old school microphone that they used to use in like Match Game 70 and stuff like that too, he never got rid of. Drew Carey still uses that. It's iconic. It's part of the fucking show. That's an amazing game show. But since, again, I should have learned my lesson. Never let Bob go first. Never let Bob go first. Yeah. That's definitely a top one, but I'm going to go back a little bit older here, and say, to me, one that was, I used to watch it with my brother and my mom back in the day, Double Dare and Family Double Dare with Mark Summer, right? That to me was, and you talk about wanting to be on a game show. I always wanted to be on The Price is Right. But dude, back when I was a kid, like going through like the fucking mud, like obstacle course and shit, and finding the flag and like the big nasty thing or whatever, dude, that was probably the most like in tune I was with a game show, where I was like, I gotta be on this show. I'll take my family there. We're going to kick ass. We're going to beat the shit out of the Smiths. You know what I mean? That was a good one. And
what if we got tickets to The Price is Right? Would you go with me and bucket list that shit?
Dude, I would be wearing the shirt. Like, I want to have Drew Carey's butt babies, like, so he'd pick me or something. But, I try to get really creative, because the more outlandish, crazy, like, outfit you had and everything.
Would you dress up like Mimi?
I would. I would even
the sick blue eyeshadow.
I would even dress up like Bob Barker. I mean, like, we'll get in there and do that. That'd be super fun.
So you'd go looking like Joe Biden. Yeah.
Exactly. But I will say this: the other one that I think is top for me, if I don't remember this one, they tried to revamp it because some guy broke the code of like the sequence of how it went. Press Your Luck. Do you remember Press Your Luck?
I don't.
The one that was like, no whammies, stop. and like it would be a little like board that would bounce from different prizes, or you get a whammy, which was like this little made up cartoon character, and you'd lose all your money that you built up, or you could get. You need to get back to that. Some dude, I think in the 90s, figured out the pattern of how it beeped, and he like won everything, and they had to change the board. They ended the show and all that kind of stuff. Pretty horrible. Other than that, though, I have to mention this because I think there was a few serial killers that were on this show. But the Newlywed Game. Have you ever seen the Newlywed Game on Game Show Network?
And these kids like that just got married and they really don't know each other all that well.
That was the show when I used to watch that on Game Show Network because it's not around, anymore. And it was like Chuck Woolery or something like that was the host. He was the host of Love Connection. You remember that show from way back in the day? But yeah, it was always really glaring to me. I was like, well, these people don't know two shits about each other. And they just got married. Very funny. But yeah, I thought that was always a good one too, where you like, hey, so what would this person do in the situation? That's like in left field. You got the wife like slapping the guy. Like, that's not me at all. I don't even wear red lingerie. But it was great. Those are good ones for me, buddy.
What about the one with Howie Mandel with the briefcases?
Oh, dude. Deal or No Deal.
Deal or No Deal. And that was a revamped one too.
I will say this. I go to Dave & Buster's a lot. I'm a fan, I'm a fan of Dave & Buster's. In fact, I think every year except for this last year during COVID, that fucking bitch of a whore. But I've gone to Dave & Buster's for my birthday every single year for like 10 years now. This is what I enjoy, right? I'm a big kid, likes to play fucking games and drink beer. You know what I'm saying? So here we are. But Deal or No Deal is probably the game there that I sit at least for an hour or two and play just straight Deal or No Deal. It's a fun fucking game. It's all chance, but it's magical. I like it.
Well, it's like chance and probability and statistics. You're like, well,
and very hot chicks, like 30 of them.
Super.
So there's that too, which is always nice.
Because you press like 8 and you're like, well, which chick's up? Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
Get it, number 8. Get it.
You know what's crazy is I always see myself if I was on that show. I'm like, dude, I'm just picking the hottest chicks in order. Like in my mind, who are the hottest chicks? And if I get everything wrong, it's fate. It's just the way it was supposed to be. It's destiny, Scott. You know what I mean? So, but that would be my order of operations. Because how do you literally pick numbers? Do you go by favorite number or do you go by hottest chick? Always hung me up.
What about the weakest link with that old British lady that was super mean?
She was a bitch. I wanted to punch her in the face. But
you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Yeah. Well, that and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was actually one of the shows I thought I could win. I really thought I could win because when I saw that a couple of times, I'm like, I know that. Or I knew enough to save my lifelines. You know what I mean? Like I could get the first few.
Like,
right.
I'll lifeline Bob. That fucker will Google it quick.
Yeah, right quick, right? That was a good show too. I think that was one of the most popular shows because Regis Philbin, God rest his soul, R.I.P. baby. But that was his flagship show for I want to say like 10 years or something like that. I've just got to pull that right out of my ass, Bob.
Do you remember Win Ben Stein's Money?
Of course I do. That was a great one, dude. Actually,
speaking of Double Dare, so I don't know. I just had to bring that up because it's from my youth. I had to remember something from my youth.
Yeah, dude, I'll tell you, Double Dare. But there's a bunch of them. Like, honestly, I don't know what they were ever called, but it was the pyramid ones. Remember they had
$100,000 pyramid?
Yeah, $25,000 pyramid, $50,000 pyramid, $100,000 pyramid. This was like the 70s through the 80s. Like that was super.
Yeah, Michael popular. Strahan hosts that now.
Yeah.
It's still going.
It's still going. Isn't that nuts? But yeah, I remember that because that was always so fun. It was almost like charades, right? You know what I mean? Like the other person would be like, yeah, so you do this. And it's like, but it's like going through. It's like, bam, 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 nailing it. Like you got to be a good duo to win that game. But
yeah, it's always the person asking the questions and giving the clues.
Yeah.
That is the winner there. Because if they can lead you to the answer without giving the answer, like that's the secret.
That was the one that always made me a little bit nervous because I thought to myself, if I don't get the right partner for that one, I'm fucking toast. You know what I mean? Because you could be as good as you like the best in the world at game shows, but if somebody's fucking giving you clues that sucks dick, well, I mean,
So I'm taking it back here. Do you remember a show it was in the early 90s, Win, Lose, or Draw, and it was a picture game?
Mm-hmm.
It was like the
it was like Pictionary almost.
Yeah, it was like Pictionary, but an actual game show with money attached. And I forget who hosted it. I want to say it was like the dude from like not Full House.
Oh, Dave Coulier.
No, it wasn't him.
Sorry, cut it out.
It wasn't maybe Perfect Strangers. Oh, I hate that. Wait, wasn't it the dude from Mad About You?
Hold on. Oh, Paul Reiser?
Paul Reiser.
Oh,
Maybe it was him.
Is it Win, Lose, or Draw?
Yeah.
Hold on, I'll look it up.
Who
Win,
hosted
Lose,
that?
or Draw.
And then there's another one too that's awesome just because of how bad people biff it, and that's Wipeout.
Oh my God, you're gonna love this, dude.
Who is it?
Hold on. Burt Reynolds.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was co-produced by Burt and Burt Productions, the original host of the syndicated version, Burt Reynolds.
Who was the next host?
I don't know. I'll look it up.
This is the things that we pause the show for. So yeah, Wipeout was always super fun. Was watching people eat shit from like 30 feet in the air was always super fun. Yeah. And then I think one of the most underrated shows because there wasn't any money attached to it was Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Tony Danza, Betty White, Lonnie Anderson, Rod Roddy. Rod Roddy. Do you remember Rod Roddy? He was the original guy from Price is Right. He was you used to wear that sparkly jacket that you used to announce and bring in Bob Barker, and they always used to show him.
Well, before they had Marv Alberts or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Dude, huge. Like Rob Roddy was an American radio.
Not Marv Alberts, Merv Griffin.
Yeah, he primarily known for his role as an offstage announcer on game shows. Among them, he announced CBS game shows Wii Press Your Luck and widely recognized signature blah blah blah, whatever. But yeah, he was big. But yeah, Tony Danza was the other guy that hosted Win, Lose, or Draw.
Is there any game shows like right now that you're into?
Nah, not really. There was one called The Chase. I don't know if you saw that one or not. Me and Jamie were talking about it yesterday, but The Chase really got us hooked because, again, it was a trivia show. And it was like you had to beat the brain is what it was called. And it was like this dude that was like the trivia master of like Ireland and Britain and all this stuff. And you had to get answers right. And like if you got answers right, you got closer to him. And it was like this little, I don't know. It's a really good show, but trivia-based game shows are probably my favorite because it really helps me get involved. If I was smart, I'd like Jeopardy, like really smart with abstract shit. It was like, at this 14th century French poet, and like as soon as that happens, like fucking my head just turns to white light. I just don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, but when they get a category like famous NFLers or something, you're like, all day. Yeah. And then you get them all right, and you're like, I'm the man. And then that's like the only questions,
This is true. Or it's like, yeah, we're going to, this one is, famous rock musicians from the 1980s. Or, fuck, I nail this one. I'll nail this one. Don't give me fucking French, British literature from the 1700s. No, I'm not going to.
Right. Modern architects. I'll take modern architects for 1,000. And
sure, why not?
So Alex Trebek's gone, but I did see that Aaron Rodgers hosted the other day. Did you catch that?
I did see that actually, and somebody when they when answering the final Jeopardy pulled a joke on him about something in the championship game, right? Did you see that?
No, I didn't see the episode.
Oh, I just saw that he hosted it. I thought you saw this. Yeah, somebody who said something like, "Why didn't you throw it?" or "Why did you do this?" or something like that. He's like, "Well, that's not right, but you're correct." It was pretty funny. I didn't get to see it all; I just saw a little clip. It was nice, but yeah, I have to say though, man, Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. I know you mentioned Wheel of Fortune, but those are like flagship game shows right there. I don't know if they're ever going to be taken off the air. I don't think they ever will.
Yeah, and Wheel of Fortune's awesome when you have someone just like totally fuck it up, or they mispronounce a really easy word because they get caught up in the moment on TV.
Yeah,
those are always great too. But I think the ones that, like I said, the Price is Right, man. It's in your screen. For me, that might be the best game show ever, and we should do it and document the whole damn thing. Tell the wives like it's a bucket list item. We have to do it.
Let's do it. Honestly, I have a friend that was in the audience for that. So that's really all we got to do is get tickets to The Price is Right. Then we could just freak out and be super just extravagant with our presence. And I think we have a good chance of getting on the show.
They're free.
Yeah.
I mean, the tickets are free.
New bucket list item.
You just got to get out there. We'll go visit K-Rod out there. It'd be great.
Done. Handled.
Well,
so it shall be written, so it shall be done.
I think that about wraps us up for today.
We're good. Yeah, I agree.
I enjoyed the drinks. Don't know if I'm ready for another one or not, but the champagne must go down, or otherwise it's just downright wasteful.
And dude, this is a $7 bottle of champagne.
You don't want to be
can't waste this. No, you're right though. And hey, I will say this too, Bob. Is this your final answer?
It is.
Oh.
I'm gonna have to phone a friend.
Oh. Use your lifeline, buddy. No, great show, good conversation. I really hope people listen to the voting thing. I think there's a lot of weight there. I think we could even have another episode just on voting, but we won't.
I think there's so much to talk about there.
Yeah,
and it's just, there's so much history there. There's so much, to pull from there. There's so many twists that we can take or views that we can have on it. And really, like I said, voter suppression is just as American as apple pie.
Boom.
It always has been.
Love that.
So, well, it's been fun. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. We have a great show coming up next week with another great Stiff Truth. I don't want to give anything away.
Please don't, because I don't even know what you're talking about. And this is fun.
But again, like us, subscribe us, tell your friends. And that's it. I'm Bob West here with Scott Casanova, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, and get out there and support us. For Christ's sake, support us. Do I need to hold a sign? What's going on here? Christ. That's all I got to say.
See ya.